Today being 9/11, and we'll start the meeting with just a brief moment of silence. Okay. Attendance. Bonnie, absent. Margaret, present. Scott?
Here.
Catherine, absent. Lee?
Present.
Christina? Present. Jerry? Absent. Igor?
Here.
Can I hear a motion to appoint Igor as a sitting member of the board for this evening?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
All right.
And I even had a jam today. Yeah.
We'll try this one right here, nice and comfortable.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Next order of business is the approval of the meetings from our July meeting.
I'd make the motion to accept those minutes.
I'll second it.
Any corrections, additions, changes? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Selectmen's report.
There's not a lot going on right now. We'll start cranking out in another couple of weeks. We're doing the budgets and for next year and getting in all the plans for next year done. So kind of like just the usual day-to-day stuff. So.
Okay. Thank you. We have a permanent vacancy to fill on the board. I did look into the voting and I think we've sent the exact numbers to the board along with the packet of information. Let me just pull that up in front of me. So we have Igor received 71 votes and Jerry received 88, so that would make Jerry the first candidate that we should be appointing. So I have a paper here that we could fill in to appoint him, but with Jerry not being present tonight, I would like to make a motion that we defer that until he is present.
We want to make sure he wants to do it.
That's correct.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Great.
At that point, we'll only have one alternate, and that's Igor. Will we advertise for another alternate?
That would be prudent.
Yeah. Or is there somebody, advertise and recruit? I don't know if there's anybody that's interested.
I know your husband had expressed interest at one point. Do you know whether he's still interested?
Be interested in the alternate.
Okay. So you could let him know that we have a vacancy if he's still interested.
The alternate. Okay.
Great, okay. Correspondence received, we had a letter saying that we needed to make our order for planning and land use regulation books. And we have placed that order for 6 books plus 1 PDF copy.
I'll do the PDF.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
I don't
Yeah.
look.
we've already placed the order.
All right.
I can give you a copy of the PDF
Okay,
as well.
so
That's easily shareable.
Yeah.
And then we also got a flyer about a floodplain basics training, which is on September 25th in Lancaster. I have registered for that training. If anyone else would like to participate in it, I'd be happy to carpool with someone. Okay.
I'll take it under advisement. I'll let you know.
Good one for Igor because you're in it. So
September 25th.
September 28th. It's Thursday morning and it's from 9 to noon.
Okay.
Okay. that moves us on to any other business. The next item is the discussion of our 2024 budget. One of the things that we do need to discuss is salary for Kathy. Because she has been putting in significantly more hours for us than had been done in previous time, particularly when I was serving as secretary. And additionally, I know that the town office has considered raising her salary. So she would be earning more than what I had been paid in the role as well. So I believe we had 5,000 in the budget for her. And I would recommend raising that to at least 11,000.
So I want to make sure, is 11,000 enough, first off, if that's in the budget? And the reason I ask that is because she's going to have continued hours, and plus if there's a raise in rate, we have to make sure that that's covered for the following year as well. And I'm not saying that we need to, and I want to be clear, change the bottom line of our budget. It's just, I think we need to change out and put that change some of the line items to better reflect what the reality is. So,
because basically, Margaret was great to fill in for a while, but Bonnie's got Kathy doing tons of things.
Right.
So
yeah, one of the other recommendations that we have is that we pick a particular day of the week as planning board time and schedule a designated slot with Kathy rather than
coming in,
just
that's a
dropping
great
in
idea.
when-
that is a fantastic idea.
Because what's happening right now is that she gets interrupted often, and she has to drop this thing to work on that or this or whatever, so I think that's a great idea.
Right, yeah, answering to different bosses, right? So yes, having a defined time that's planning board time.
that would make it easier for Kathy to know when she's going to be working on planning board.
It's better for us.
Easier for us too,
Right, for us, much easier, because I mean, the amount of time that it will take her to get back, if she's doing, town stuff, and then all of a sudden she has to switch to planning board and get back, yes,
That's great,
Yep. good.
and that way we know, we have a deadline of when we need to ask for things too.
Yes.
Right. And we'll be able to manage our budget better that way as well.
If that number's good, has Judy looked at that and she thought that was a good number or what?
She did, yes.
Okay.
Okay. And then, if we needed to, we could reduce the amount in our budget for consulting and legal because we weren't using the amount that we had budgeted for those two lines.
I bet you could reduce it by quite a bit if we wanted to. Because I mean, the town has a legal budget. I think that was increased because there was quite a bit of animosity on the board
Right.
at that time, and they wanted to have their own.
There was some concern on the previous board that we might want to have a line item for legal in the event that the planning board ever had a dispute with the select board.
I mean, it's always possible, I mean,
It is.
it can happen. I mean, if we took half of it out of consulting, half of it out of legal for the difference.
That's right. I think you should keep something. There.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, just so you have the line item, and if you have to, use it,
Right.
there it is. Yeah.
Bonnie was recommending that if we left 1,000 in for operations and 1,000 each for consulting and legal, that would probably be sufficient for anything we feel like we use.
Not a lot of money, but
It's not a lot of money,
maybe 3 hours,
but it's more than we've used.
right. And hopefully we won't need to, use it that way, you know what I'm saying, so.
Right. Does anyone have any questions or have a
No.
proposal?
I think it works great.
Great, then we can move forward with that proposed budget. Thank you.
What does it increase our budget by if we change all that around?
That would make it 1,400.
More
Sorry, 14,000
versus,
versus I believe it was 11,000. last
so
year.
not kind of,
So, yeah. Okay, great. Our next item of business is discussing a proposed change in our planning board meeting time. We have been beginning our meetings at 6 p.m. and there was a proposal on the table. Most other boards start their meetings at 5. And there's been a suggestion that we entertain the idea of changing our meeting time to 5 as well, to align with the other boards. How do board members feel about this idea?
I, for one, am in favor of it.
Me too. If for some reason someone does something important comes up, that they cannot get here in time or something like, we can say for that one meeting, okay, well, what's
Flexibility.
it says, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Or if there's a public hearing, we can put that on at 6, we start at 5, we take care of our business.
yeah,
And it, you know, it need.
yeah, I think because most boards have gone to 5.
Yeah, and especially winter's coming, it's dark, it's cold. No one wants to
And
be
we
up
can,
too late.
we can be flexible, it doesn't mean you're married to a job.
I'd make the motion that we start at 5.
I'll second it, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. I'll call this as a vote. Scott,
Yes,
Lee,
Yes.
Igor,
Yes.
Christina, Margaret, abstaining. So that passes then. With that passing, we will need to consider when we would like to schedule our excavation pit visitations, because typically we would have done those before the beginning of our meeting. But now with the meeting starting at 5 o'clock, that would be during business hours.
I mean, for me, I think for a lot of us, it doesn't make any difference.
Doesn't matter to me.
We went at 4 o'clock.
We went at 4 o'clock last year.
Mhm.
Just if it's between now and mid-October, just not on a Thursday, I can do it any day.
I can too, yeah, pretty much. And I think sooner the better before it gets darker.
Okay,
Maybe for our next meeting.
Yeah. What's the date of our next meeting? Do you have that?
our next meeting is in mid-October because the second Monday is Columbus Day. So we may want to consider doing the pit visitations before our next meeting.
I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Why do that?
If there's a choice of days, I'm not.
Okay. Does it make sense for us to send an email around and
Yes.
check schedule with the
Yep.
remaining board members as
I'm
well?
pretty flexible.
Okay. So we can follow up with that by email then?
Yep.
Great, thank you. Okay, subdivision regulations. Have you had a chance to review them? Are there further questions or discussion? Would we like to continue that this evening?
I've been helping. I'm looking at some of them and ours is really pretty simple. You know, trying to look at, what is a subdivision, what is a land development law, so some of some of these things get really involved. In the definitions, so I don't know. I don't know.
As I recall from our last meeting, there were a few items that we had identified as requiring further investigation before we wanted to move forward with finalizing them.
That's what I mean. I looked at definitely what it is, right now, and what we say it is. Because we've got all the confusion. If you have a mobile home park, you have this, you have that. There's a lot of confusion. I just think we want to eliminate that confusion.
Okay.
But as I looked at other towns, I was more confused. So, I mean, I think we need to decide what the town wants and then put that together.
Okay, so it requires further investigation.
I think, the way we have it set up, a campground is something that, could be considered, I mean, it's silly, so. So I think we need to get a better we want it, and I think you have to decide if you want a mobile home park to be a subdivision or not. Do you want a campground to be a subdivision or not? Is a condominium, but the way we've always done it is condominiums are subdivisions. And campgrounds are not mobile home, but Is that what we want? And it's not clear that that's what we've done, but it's not clear in our regulations that that's what we're supposed to do, I don't think. So that's the only thing.
Generally speaking, how do other towns view it? Are they all over the place?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
And that's, I mean, it's a bit of a touchy question for us as well, because if something is a subdivision, we have oversight, and if it isn't, we don't.
Mhm.
right, but I don't think we want to have oversight if there's no reason to either.
Correct.
Right, but and I mean. I think, we're looking at the building permit issues, and I think some of it could be handled through that process, but that'll take another vote of town meeting too. But
It sounds like this requires further investigation.
I think so, yeah.
Okay,
I was just gonna point out, the town attorney already issued a letter about what a subdivision is. And, for the people that may not know, that was done maybe a year ago, 2 years ago.
Yep.
Might be worth pulling that out, looking at it.
Yeah.
Can we get that letter emailed around so we can read it?
absolutely.
Yeah, that would be great. Might provide some clarity for us.
And that's what's in our regulations at this point.
Yep.
Do we want to keep them that way, or do we want to change them, or make them more strict?
Yeah, right.
There's a lot of options.
But that might be a good starting point, so.
Right, yeah, and she was involved in this revision of the
Mhm.
regulation as
Yep.
well, so. Okay, great, so we'll table the discussion for the moment and take another pass at revising it so that we're fully informed before we move forward. Okay, next step is the flood insurance program, and I know you and I, Scott, still need to take the next step with FEMA before we can do
I'll
anything
do that.
further.
I'll do that next week, Margaret.
Okay,
I have a couple of questions just to kind of put them out there just for food for thought. And when it comes to the flood insurance, how many properties, dollar value parcels, I don't even know how you judge this. How many people, how many businesses are affected by this? Is it a lot? I mean, I don't know,
Some, Igor.
right? But I mean, are there?
Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah.
Along the river, pretty much everyone along the river, right?
Yeah.
And with this, okay, so I understand that it would lower flood insurance
Yeah.
costs. But would a unintended consequence be that if we lower those costs, would it encourage more development in those areas? And is that something that we want? Do you follow?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, I think the bottom line is they can't really build in those areas anymore,
Okay.
even if they wanted to and get flood insurance, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Now, from what I understand anyway, if you're gonna build today, you've got to build the current standards,
Okay.
which means you don't need flood insurance if you get an elevation certificate,
Mhm.
again, from what I understand. So you can't theoretically build a property anymore that could get flooded.
Okay. I'm just
Theoretically,
big learning curve here for me because I'm not in the flow. Okay.
that's the way I understand it, is that any new construction has to be according to the new standards. So,
yeah, theoretically, if it's built according to standard, it should minimize any potential damage.
exactly, yeah. I don't know if you're. No, but it's a very good question. There's a lot of land in Woodstock that's floodplain.
Right.
I've been I tried to look at a bunch of sites that the town owns for a community solar program, for solar
Right.
for the town. They're all in floodplain. Anything the town, the wastewater treatment plant, the town well
Right.
field, everything that we have that could potentially use for that is in floodplain. You
Right.
can't do it. So, I mean, the water floodplain. That's what the town owns, much less private people. So. I don't know.
And is town required the flood insurance?
No, if you, the town has to vote to adopt the floodplain regulations to get flood, so people can get flood insurance. If you don't adopt the regulations from what he said, they're not eligible for flood insurance. Through the program, that is.
The problem is that if you're not eligible for flood insurance, you can't get certain kinds of mortgages, which makes it very
Right,
difficult to
right.
sell property.
Right.
So I think we want to keep the flood insurance, but not necessarily encourage. I
Right,
agree with
right.
you.
Yeah, I mean, that's the last thing I want is to have, okay, so it's easier to do this, so let's build, right?
Yeah, it's not like, Jules Bernard down on the, property there that, Resnick Circle. He's built it all according to the new specs and everything, got an elevation certificate and everything, and he didn't even get flood insurance.
Right,
And the bank didn't require it because he's got his elevation certificate and everything is supposedly. Who knows?
right.
Doesn't look that high to me, but I don't know.
I was wondering too.
So, yeah, we did it all according to the book.
Yeah, no, that's what he told me when he was building, so he built up the land.
Everybody was looking at it, believe me, so. We made sure for the survey and everything else that we did it according to Cornell's.
And the other thing, I only had two questions about this, where there are costs, actual costs in us developing and getting to more points. And even hidden costs, and are those costs important to the entire community, or is it just specific to those people who are in the floodplain? So I mean, these are.
Yes, and it's complicated.
Yes. Do we, if there are costs, do we have any idea what they are?
I don't have concrete numbers to give you at the moment. As we look into it in a little bit more detail, we'll be
Okay.
able to get more information about specifically what it will cost to get to specific tiers in the.
Right. Because that's
and
something that might
we'll be
be.
able to make an informed decision whether it's worth it.
Whether it's worth it or not.
Yeah.
The
town
first
meeting
couple
might,
of steps don't seem hard.
Okay.
They're hard, but they're not
I just,
expensive.
and I may be getting ahead of it, but it's just, again,
Oh, no,
these are things that,
That's a good point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We would absolutely want to make an informed decision whether or not the cost.
I mean, I don't
What's
want
the
anything
benefit?
to happen to Montauk. I don't
Yeah.
want it, I live 1,000 feet up, if there's a forest
I don't
fire,
have to
I'm in
worry.
big trouble.
Yeah.
We have different things that we worry about.
Right.
So,
Exactly, yeah, no, and my house is on a hill on a rock,
right,
it's not gonna flood,
right,
but by the same token, I think this is important for the town because I don't want people who are at risk to not be able to sell their properties. When they
Right.
choose to.
So I just want to bring up a point, even though you're on elevation, your house could flood from water running down the hill. And flood insurance, you think would cover that, or if your house moves because of a flood with the earth? You might want to look into that a little further.
Yeah.
It actually would be good to get the floodplain coverage.
Yeah.
And even if it was expensive, if there was time to get it on the warrant article.
Oh, no.
Before March, there wouldn't be any time, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
thanks.
yeah, there are certainly people who may be affected by flood that are not directly in the floodplain, and it would be of value for them as well.
Okay.
Okay, there are two items on here related to the master plan draft. That's your wheelhouse, Christina. Do you have anything that you'd like to add?
No, I was just still working on it, Bonnie and I were still, it would be best to do it when Bonnie's here.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll table that as well, and
I
I'll
think so.
suggest that you have the committee schedule its next meeting.
Yeah, because I think we were gonna do try to do another like, community input. Or like another big draft.
Okay, great. We've mentioned a couple of times this evening the FEMA elevation certificate. Just to read into record, this has been in effect since the beginning of July. And several people have applied for building permits since that time. We've gone back through the records and double checked to make sure that all of those building permits have been requested to also fill in the elevation certificates so that our records are in compliance. And that brings us to public participation. Does anyone in the public have anything you'd like to discuss? Yes,
What's the status of the external permits that are required by the different state agencies, federal agencies, and stuff with respect to Calder's Pit, 112-008? I know we did a conditional approval back in December of what was it, 2021, that allowed them to continue to excavate in there as long as they stayed away from the wetlands. I believe the wetlands permits have been in, and I believe the alteration of terrain is done, but the EPA requirements still outstanding? In other words, is there still something outstanding on that permit?
I think the wetlands part of it is outstanding, but that came up with the agreement that they couldn't go near the wetlands until that was finished.
Right, but the permit that used to be for there, back when Stacy Thompson first had it and Calder took it over, that expired June 29th, 2020. It's been 3 years since all the document that's supposed to be available is available, and I'm just wondering, are they all here now after 3 years?
I think what it is now is a reclamation at this point.
So they're done excavating?
Well, Rex is here, let's hear what we have to say. Rex has to say, don't you think?
I think
Yeah.
that would be best, yes.
I can't discuss it with them, and you shouldn't be discussing it with them because we're still in court over this shooting range. So for him to be dragging, I see both their cars here, that's the only reason why I'm here. For them to be dragging this into the town, once again, it's,
I think we feel that he's got the permits that are necessary right now,
Okay,
is what we thought.
this demolition that was just done here a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Are you aware that the rocks left the property again?
Yes.
Are you aware that the abutters were not notified as specifically specified at the December 13th meeting, and it's contained in the meeting minutes for June 13th, even though the meeting was on June 20th, meeting minutes said that it was June 13th, that Rex had to notify us. Now, I have a phone, just like you both,
Is that planning board or select board, those meeting minutes?
planning board.
I think it's unfortunate that the blaster.
I can answer
That's
that. So everybody that, when you told us that we had to notify everybody that was in the area. So we didn't have, I'm not gonna call him down in Rochester or wherever he is to notify him. There was paperwork sent out to police departments with paperwork, the dates that we're gonna blast between such and such dates is what the planning board all agreed to. Not a specific date. And it is up to the blaster. To notify the PD. And let them know when they're gonna know. They don't want these people down there at 5 minutes of 9 to say, well, we might blast at 10:30. They don't want any spectators hanging around there. So they are notified. There's letters out there. There's a letter that posted on the property down there, like you asked us. There's a letter posted at the office building down there where the scale shack is. And all the surrounding abutters that actually have houses there were notified by the pit operator.
Yes.
Yes, I just want to bring up, just to be clear, it's the owner's responsibility
Nope,
to
it is not.
notify the abutters. Because I was at that meeting too,
And that's what is
And-
specified in the meeting minutes.
and it's never up to the contractor, the owner's always responsible. So just wanted to point that out.
the contractor notified you with a letter, I'll give you a copy of the letter if you'd like one. There should be one in the town office. And it is not up to the contractor to notify you when they're gonna blast. I mean, it's just.
It isn't, it's up to the owner.
No, it is not up to the owner.
It is, it's part of your permit.
Well, Einstein, I just wanna tell
Well,
you
but
that the blaster is required to notify the chief of police, not the contractor.
No, but in the.
He's a subcontractor to call the construction that carries all of his insurances and everything else.
All right, I just want to let the board know, in the conditional permit, because I was there. Rex agreed to notify the abutters.
I was there for that meeting and I believe he can delegate to somebody to notify.
It doesn't have,
The
the
key
abutters
is,
were notified.
We weren't notified. Had I been out on the properties? Okay. Margaret, would you please go to the meeting minutes for June 13th, 2022?
I don't think that.
You have them on the webpage. Underneath the planning board.
Is there
You
something
don't need to go
specific
through
you
all
need
that.
from the minutes?
You don't need to go.
You referenced
This
this.
whole is not even in the
So
bottom.
it's posted. it's-
The town
I
attorney,
don't want to get my house blasted.
the town attorney told you at that meeting, told the planning board at that meeting, that when I asked for a cease and desist for lack of notification, at that time, it was ruled that that didn't meet the cease and desist, but it was incumbent upon Rex or the Culver family to notify abutters prior to any future blasting. That did not happen. That is a violation of that permit. I am here tonight asking for a cease and desist one second time.
I think we should, I think this is kind of a,
We have damage now.
unfortunately, just a tit for tat thing here, and I think we should just, stay out of it and move on.
But you
Well, this
can't
has-
stay out of it. You are the regulator.
This doesn't have anything to do with the gun range. You don't have to stay out of it because of the gun range. This is about the excavation.
This is
permit.
the excavation permit.
This is the planning board's responsibility.
You are the regulating body by law. It took 6 months to get everybody on that page, but we finally agreed that you folks are the regulator. I'm asking you to take a look at RSA 155 Echo, Section 4 and Section 10. It tells you you're not supposed to issue a permit if it's gonna create a safety hazard, if it creates a nuisance, or it's gonna create potential property damage. It has done that now. And it's the second time that the abutters have not been notified. So the intent of that permit being issued on a temporary basis has been violated.
What,
And you have every right to shut that pit down for lack of conformance with the pit regulations.
what is the,
Rex, you have
hold on, hold-
notifications out, you have posted, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
what is considered notification, I guess, that's my curiosity.
It was stated in those meetings that we would be
he wasn't
contacted.
here for
I
that.
was, yeah, I apologize, I'm new on the board,
I
so,
understand.
so I'm just trying to
I
get some
can't see this
information.
as going anywhere.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I wanna make it perfectly clear that John Kimball isn't a butter, Kevin Foley is not in a butter. So he can stay here and make all kinds of.
I don't know who, I
Kevin
mean,
Foley.
Okay.
okay, I'm sorry, the cast of characters, I don't know.
John Kimball isn't a butter.
Can make all kinds of statements and,
Is that the minutes?
statements.
Is that
But
the,
this is the law.
oh, I was curious what it said about the notification. How
And
the,
then, to invite from the board, like I said.
Why don't-
is that
I think we should look at it and, put it on the agenda. for next
I think,
meeting.
yeah, it should be on the agenda for next month,
Yeah.
and let's do some detail on it.
Should probably talk to the town attorney as well.
Right.
This is something that occurred very shortly before our meeting. We do not have all of the details of the incident, and there's definitely some investigation that needs to occur before we decide on any specific course of action. I appreciate you coming to the meeting and giving us your side of the story. I would like to see a copy of the notification that you sent out, Rex.
Yeah.
And at this point, I'm gonna close discussion on it. And we will take it under advisement and consider our next option. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Is there any other questions or comments from the public? Any other business from board members? Okay. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
I go for it, I always do that one. Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight.
All right, thanks for the meeting.